Hey, good evening. Welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back with the second episode of the day. And I'm very excited. Talk some fantasy football. Someone I met a couple years ago at the Fantasy Football Expo. I had a great time then and been wanting to get her on the show. And here we are. And this is the continuation of my women in fantasy football or football itself, just highlighting incredible women in this space, whether it's, they're content creating in fantasy football, hosting, media. So I have another great woman in the background. So, but before we get started, hit my music. Let's get it. All right. Once again, welcome to another great episode of Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Like I said, glad to be back with another incredible episode. And you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Spreaker. We're on the BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, BS3 Network, Roku channel, iHeartRadio, wherever you consume your podcast. We are there. And you can follow me on all the social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and TikTok. I Get the Real Deal on all those platforms. All right. Well, let me bring in my guest. As I said at the top of it, I've been wanting to get her on for a long time. And like I said, this is the series that I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, highlighting women in football and fantasy football, which football is right around the corner. I think I heard it's 30 something days, I think 36, 37 days, something like that when the NFL starts. But we got college football, high school football, and a lot of different things are happening. So looking forward to this season. I met this incredible woman at the Fantasy Football Expo 2 years ago. So we are going to catch up. So welcome to the show, Wendi Earley of Women of Fantasy Football. She has her hands on a lot of different things, so I'm going to let her tell her story. So, Wendi, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Hi, Courtney. Well, first of all, thank you for making this series. I've seen
Well,
some of the women that you had on these past couple of weeks, and so I'm very honored to have been asked to appear. So thank you.
you're welcome, and it's my honor to have even you on, and it's honor to have you on, and I'm so glad to get you on, and just to catch up with you, and I see all the things you've been doing. I mean, you podcast, you do fantasy football, you're on the Women of Fantasy Football. Shout out to the Women of Fantasy Football as well. It's like I said, it's a movement, and they're proud partners of Galvanized Life to empower women in sports. And they're members of the Club Fantasy Football as well. So and you're part of that. You've done a lot of different things for them as well. So shout out to you and the Women of Fantasy Football in that movement.
Yeah, they're amazing over there.
Yeah.
Totally amazing. So
Yes.
they've given me, so many opportunities. I mean, I got to go to the NFL Combine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never in a million years, would I would have thought that I would be attending the NFL Combine. So they've given me so much there, and they're great. So that's definitely, thank you for that shout out.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, you do a lot of different things with the Women of Fantasy Football. And as you said, when we were chatting before we recording and within the last week or so setting this up, you were saying how you're usually on this side of the
Yeah.
this side of the microphone interviewing others. So I want to put you on the hot seat and interview and highlight you and what you do. And you, like I said, you help so many different women, and so many people in general, but so a lot of different women in this space to be able to be comfortable and have a platform to share their experiences playing fantasy football, and you highlight them as well. So I wanted to give that to you and have this platform for you to share your story as well. So we'll start there. So my first question, I always ask my first time guest, who is Wendi Earley, and how did you get into fantasy football? Oh, let's start from the beginning. Just tell a little bit of your background.
Okay, well, I live in Indiana, so
Mhm.
I have a lot going on over here. Okay, but I've always been I was always an athlete growing up. I mean, Courtney, you've met me, you've seen me. I'm 6 feet tall.
Yes, yes, yes.
So,
That's all of it.
yep. I
Yes.
played basketball,
Yeah.
volleyball. I ran track. I did the high jump, the hurdles, all of it. So, and I've
Yeah.
always been a huge sports fan. So, but I'd say football was always my favorite sport, though.
Yeah.
And
For
then,
sure.
and Miami Dolphins fan. Got to give the shout out. 1984. Okay, I'm going to show my age just a little bit here. Okay, 1984. I graduated in 1984. Okay, so Dan Marino was the
Mhm.
quarterback for the
Yep.
Miami Dolphins. So Wendy became a Miami Dolphins fan.
Okay. All right.
It
Hey.
kind of stuck with me, but now I live so close to Chicago. I'm like an hour from Soldier Field. I can
Mm.
get to Soldier Field in an hour. So on a good day, hour and a half. On a bad day. So I do go to Bears games. I follow the Bears. I love the Bears. I'm a fan. I'm going to training camp tomorrow, Courtney.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Mm.
that's another thing. Like, you could have never told me, a year ago, hey, you're going to go to Bears training camp next year. But it's just something. It's those opportunities that are out there,
Yeah.
for women. But so that's kind of where I started. And then with the fantasy football, that was, it's one of those things where back in 2005 is about when I started. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 20 years. And
20 years. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I was invited to a home league. Actually, it was one of my tenants. And I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. But you know what? He was a retired Marine. He was just a great guy. And he had the draft in his garage. I mean, you wrote your stuff down. Like, there
Yes.
was there
Hmm.
was none of this fancy, the big stuff that they have now. None of those big things. But you know what? It was amazing. I enjoyed my time there. However, they were very, very old school.
Mm.
Like, you had to either text your lineup or email your lineup. There was
Mm.
no, they didn't want to put it on. There was a lot of older guys, and they
Yeah.
just didn't want to do it. So that's the way. So, and I'm not going to change anything.
Yeah.
I'm the new guy. So I played there for a couple years, and I did win the first year.
Okay. See, there you go. You knew what you already was doing anyway. So,
I'm like, you know what?
yeah.
I'm gonna start my own league. I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
do that. So that's what I ended up doing. I'm like, so I was just a little 8 team, on Yahoo, and everybody came over to my house, and I made this big spread of food, and kind of like you do a lot. The live drafts, the home drafts. If you're in a home league and you guys are in the position to be able to be all together and
Mhm.
pick a day that everybody can get together, do a live draft.
Yes, yes, it's so much fun, and the interesting thing about your story, how you got into fantasy football, and just in general, played sports. You said track and field and things like that, and then getting into fantasy football, as you said, football was your favorite sport. And starting in 2005, I started like in 2000 ish, so around the same time, or give or take a few years, and you're right. Back then, 20 years ago, you had to, go to the newspaper and,
Yeah.
and do things and see like, okay, what happened. And at that time, internet was just beginning and everything too. But yeah, that's how I started the league, and I started on Yahoo the same way. And yeah, and we got hooked. It was like,
Oh yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it was it. But I want to go back, and you said Dan Marino, your favorite player of all time. Dan Marino?
Oh no. No. Silly boy. My favorite player of all time is Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If
Okay.
I probably have about 10 of his jerseys. That was my team name, my very first team name, Mrs. Tom Brady.
Okay. This is Tom Brady. So big
I
Tom
still
Brady.
use that name. I'm in a league with Lisa Ann, And
Yeah, yeah.
I still use Mrs. Tom Brady in that league.
I love it. So just say I'm just using the same name. This is my favorite player of all time, and he's the one, if not the GOAT of all time. And it's yeah. So you use Tom Brady and everything. That I love that. And as you said, now let's fast forward a little bit and the growth of women in fantasy football, and you've seen it for you said for the last 20 years
Mhm.
that you've been playing. What do you think of the growth of where it is today from when it was back then? Now you see there's so many incredible women. Like I said, I've had quite a bit of them on here, colleagues and people have met and everything too. But yeah, what do you think of the growth of how women in football has grown?
Yeah, I really feel that they're moving in the right direction. They're
Mhm.
definitely moving in the right direction as far as
Right.
progress and in the space too.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement all the time, no matter what. But I also feel that everyone's realizing there are some rock star women out there.
Yeah. Lots.
I'm
Yeah.
talking content creators, analysts, graphic artists, statistics, writers, so many behind the scenes women that, they do all this amazing work so we can have all this fun, playing our fake sport game that we love.
Yeah.
So I think that it's definitely changed towards the better. I did see like there seems like so many more women are playing, in the fantasy football leagues.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but I do co-commission Battle of the Sexes tournament,
Yeah. Yep.
and it's equal amount of women against equal amount of men. And this way, a woman doesn't come into, maybe they're first starting out or they feel intimidated because usually you're the only woman in the league. That,
Yeah.
so this is the space where it's equal, so you're not going to feel intimidated. We have husbands and wives playing. We have two daddy-daughter divisions. So we've got dads playing against their daughters. Some of those daughters are good. I pop
Yeah.
in, they're all good. They're all good just for, getting in there and being involved, and they love it. And now they have a safe space.
Yeah.
So I do see a lot of progress, and I feel that if you're a woman that likes to play fantasy football or you want to try it, there are places for you. That's kind of what I feel my place in this
Right.
in the space is, Courtney, is getting, and getting the people together. I'm not an analyst. I don't play one on TV. Okay. I'm not an artist, but making the connections for the women so they can showcase their talent is what I'm good at. I just feel, most of my friends around here, my local friends, they're not like me, Courtney. Okay. They're not, going to the fantasy football expo, and they're not in all of these leagues, and they're not going to this. They don't know who Scott Fish is,
Yeah, right,
but you know
right.
what? We all do.
Mhm.
And we all love this stuff, and it's mostly charity. So, the Battle of the Sexes, we donate to prostate cancer. We donate
Yeah.
to Play Like a Girl, and we also donate to Living Beyond Breast Cancer. And last year, I think we donated like over $7,000.
Wow.
I mean, that's not just chump change there,
No.
So
Right.
it's pretty big. So that's another thing that we want you to know, that there are places for you. So but just because there are a whole lot of women in this space. So if you
Mhm.
are a woman and you love fantasy football, I want you to go to women of _FF, or I would like you to hook up with Rachel, who has a ladies chat at Tootsie Pop 6, and
Yep.
it is called Unwind. If you give her a follow, there are some amazing women in there, and I know she was just on your show.
Yeah, last week. This past Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So, we've met, we talk, we text, we're friends.
Yep.
These are your friends. You're going to find your circle of friends here.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yep.
So I do feel that it's moving in the right direction.
Yes, it is, and very well said. And like you said, I know you love to you said to help educate and just to provide. like I said, a safe space for women and even younger kids to be able to get into this and not feel ashamed because okay, you might be the only they might be the only woman in a league. I'm in a podcast league that we've been doing it for the last, I think it's like our 6th year. It's the same ones we have, and we have one woman. Shout out to Nikki Gifts that's in our league, and
Yeah, I know her.
yeah. So she's the only woman in our league, but she comes in and does her thing, and it's like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, man. She knows her stuff, and she just comes in there, has fun, banters with us, talks a lot of trash with us, and everything too. And I love that. It's just like you said, it's just giving a safe space. And I was reading something that said, the fastest growing demographic in this is fantasy football, women making up approximately 35% of fantasy sport players. Now, this was taken, I think, in 2020 or 2025, which translates to roughly 20 million women participating in leagues. That's huge.
That's huge.
And it keeps increasing. And you're a part of that too. You, like you said, you're helping out and you're using your voice and platform to uplift and to uplift and promote and support and empower women.
But I can't do it. It takes a whole team. It does. It's not just one person. So, there's so many good people out there. And I do want to give a shout out because I met you at the expo. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I was at the expo at the time. I was working with TSA, the sports affiliation. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first time I got to meet JC and Iggy. Well, I'm sitting at the flag football game, and I'm talking to the guy behind me. I didn't know who he was, come to find, he was like, man, I really want to get you on a show. And I'm like, who, okay, whatever, I'm here to talk, I'm here to watch the game, he was very nice. We had a great conversation.
Right.
Well, it was Greg Kellogg. Okay. And so he reached out and told Iggy and JC, he's like, hey, you should talk to Wendi and Carla. And maybe they'd like to do a podcast together. And I was like, what? So, that's kind of where that started, because they're a wonderful group, such great people. I still support them. I'm still in their chat. I just love them, but that's another group to reach out to. So, but I did want to give them a shout out because they're huge. But Women of Fantasy Football has really been a great thing for me. And I know that, they're there in Club FFL. They're all so supportive of us. So, I just want to make sure that everybody, knows that I really appreciate what they've done for me.
Yeah, and like I said, Women of Fantasy Football, they've given so many opportunities, and you said you got to go to the combine, and but it's those connections, it's the networking, and like you said, we met in person a couple of years ago. I haven't been able to get back to the fantasy.
I know you said you're not going this year.
Yeah, not going this year. Celebrating my 20-year anniversary. Me and my wife going to Hawaii.
That's pretty important.
Hawaii in August. End of August. So that's why. And then last year, I can't remember what happened last year. I think we were celebrating again. We went to a Liberty game last year. So nice. We were just doing some different things and everything too. But I'm definitely gonna try to get back there. And the Fantasy Football Expo is such a huge. It's a huge thing and event at in Canton, Ohio, at the Hall of Fame. But it was like I said, it was so nice that was my first time 2 years ago, and had a great time at that point. It's like I said, if anybody gets a chance to go, even if it's just one time, you don't have to be into fantasy football. You can go as just a network.
I wasn't, Courtney.
Right.
Didn't know anything. Like I was into fantasy football, but I wasn't podcasting or playing in too many leagues, which we can talk about later.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that.
But it's just the Fantasy Football Expo, I say, is for everyone.
Yes.
I don't care if you're a fan, if you're an analyst, if you're on XM radio, everyone is accessible there. Yep. It's like you don't have to worry about, can I go up and talk to Bob Harris? Well, first of all, Bob Harris is my bestie, so I can go and talk to
You have that on your tag. You tagged that on your Twitter, yes. Your bio.
So yeah, so you have to go through me if you want to talk to Bob Harris.
Yes, yes.
But everyone is so nice. So when I
Yeah.
went my first year, I was so nervous. I made my daughter go with me.
Mhm.
And she didn't go. She didn't actually go to the expo, but she went to Canton with me because I didn't know what I was in for. I was just a fan, everyone,
Yeah.
just a fan.
Right.
So I walk up to the DoubleTree. I'm getting ready to go check in. My heart's pounding. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And someone says, Wendi Earley. And I'm like, someone knows not only my first name, but they know my last name. Are
Your
you
whole
kidding me?
your whole government
So
name.
I look up and it's Howard Bender.
Oh,
And I had been on a couple of different podcasts. I had seen him, and so he knew who I was, But for him I immediately felt welcome. It's like he gave me this big hug, and he's introducing me to everybody there. They're just all standing outside. Not one time did I feel, out of place, and those people didn't know me. Most of them didn't know me just from being on Twitter,
right,
just
right.
interacting, on social media, and that's the thing, you get that connection finally, and then we just had, there's so much going on though. Time just, it's like Vegas when you're at the
Yes.
expo.
Yes, it just goes, and there's so much to do,
And you
and
can't do it all.
you can't do it all. Yep, you cannot do it
As
all.
much as you want to, you can't do it all.
You
So,
can't be at every place at one. You can't be everywhere at one time. They said they had the flag football, they have the panels, they have the expo in itself. There's so many different things. They have the live drafts. They have you got the parties. You
amazing.
have
Yes, there's something for everyone.
everyone.
There.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
are not, if you're not having a good time at the Fantasy Football Expo, then you're like my kid, my daughter. She didn't have a good time because she stayed in the hotel room the whole time. It was just, like I said, if you haven't gone, or if you're just starting out and you're just like, I don't know, I'm not going to know anybody. If you're already talking to these people, you
Yeah.
know them.
Right, you do.
You know?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and everybody, you wear a little tag around, you walk up and you look and you say, who are you? I know you.
Yes.
So, and then you're like, oh yeah, oh my God, Courtney,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
how it was with us.
Yeah, it was with us.
So
We saw each other, and we was at the party. Was at the first night, and we just kind of walked up and said, "Oh my goodness, Wendy, Courtney," it's like, and then
and that's how it goes,
that's how it goes.
So,
Cornhole pictures,
yeah,
everything.
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's like the happiest place on earth for that weekend.
Yeah, for that weekend. Yeah, yep, yeah, exactly. And you get a chance to go, if you're into football, a chance to go to the Hall of Fame and see the Hall of
Oh,
Fame.
yes,
And,
absolutely. I mean, yeah, Bob Long and his family and his team, the amazing work that they do for us to be
Yeah.
able to go to this expo. Big shout out to them because
Yes.
they don't just work on it these last couple months. They work on it all year round.
All year round. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we can all go have fun for that weekend.
Yep. Yeah, because I remember having Bob Long a couple years ago on the podcast, and this is when my first time going. He was talking about he's prepping, preparing me to say, hey, this is it's a lot, and even for the first time, he said just be comfortable where you want to go. Like I say, can't be at every event or anything like that, but he did say, I think I asked him, I was like, well, when do you prepare? He said right the day after the expo is over, he's preparing for the next year and everything too, and then making the announcement and things like that. So yeah, he's working
his whole
around
family. I mean, his wife, his kids, his whole, his son-in-laws, daughters-in-law, they're all out there, doing that. And it was, going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it just walking through there, it's like magical.
Yes.
All the all the faces, and it was great. I mean, so it's like, for someone like me, it's like a kid in a candy store. Like, Walter Payton, Walter Payton,
Yeah, Walter Payton, yeah. Oh my goodness, yes. And then all the, then they have the class of the whatever the year is, it was 2023 when I went. And it was it's a great time. So like I said, even if you're not a fantasy football manager, or you're not into, or you're just starting, or you're a kind of creator, whatever, you could definitely go And I always tell people, just even if it's just one time, you'll love the networking, the connection as the most important
Oh
thing.
yeah, for sure.
You
And
know,
even, as far as, more women coming, we just want everybody to know that, it is a blast. I
Mhm.
guarantee you, like I said,
Yeah.
if you're not having fun in Canton for that weekend, then, maybe you're sick or something. I don't know.
Yeah, yes, you're gonna have a good
You
time.
have a
Yeah,
cold or something.
you have a
You're
cold. Yeah,
in
you
a
got to
hotel
stay
room.
in. Got to stay in, right? And then you go outside. You're just having a good time. It's a great time and everything too. So, all right, I want to ask you about your kind of your draft. Don't give too much tips because you're in a lot of leagues. Well, how many leagues are you in this year? That'll be the first question I'm going to ask you.
You know what? I'm glad you asked that,
Yes.
because I honestly, we all say it, Courtney, don't we? We all
Yes, we do.
say we're going to be in less leagues next year.
Yep. Yep.
You know what? I am in less leagues this year,
Me too. Me
because
too.
you
Yes.
you have got to take care of your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I did not take care of my
Because
mental health because I was in too many leagues.
right, right.
I
Yes.
knew it,
No, I
and
can
I'm
say
not
everybody
doing
probably
that
kept
again.
asking you. They probably kept asking you. You kept saying yes.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because you want everyone to say yes when you ask them, so you feel
Yeah.
bad if you have to say no. But
Right.
I think that everyone is in the same boat that we are. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, we're cutting back, and some people don't. Some people still do. But managed leagues, I'm going to say I'm in me. I think my limit is 6.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not
That's
gonna do
pretty
more
good.
than 6. Best ball, unlimited. If I can
Yeah.
draft, and it's especially a charity league. If it's
Yep.
a charity league and I'm available and I'm able to draft and it's not a managed one, I'm in, best ball
Yeah.
all day long. So
Yep.
yeah, that I
Okay.
don't mind. So last season though, I'm telling you, when the Battle of the Sex tournament started, I was not prepared. Okay. Things just started bam, 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 and we were having problems and issues. No, I mean, not bad stuff, but
Right.
somebody was missing their turn or this or that. And I'm at work, I'm stressed out at work.
Oh no.
Off. We all have jobs,
Yeah.
and it was just a lot. And I'm like, this is too much. I knew it was too much. And, I started to miss my turn. And I hate that. If I
Yeah.
time out, I hate that, and then you feel like a jerk, and then you get on auto and you got to ask to get off of auto.
Yes. Yep.
So, one of your questions, was about how to be a good manager.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I
Let me be
think
a good
this
fan.
all
Good
ties
manager.
in,
Mhm.
because my answer to that was don't play in too many leagues.
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
playing in too many leagues, you're not a good manager, because you can't be, if too many managed leagues,
Yeah.
because if you're not, looking enough, or you're not setting your lineup, you got injured players in there, that's being a crappy manager, so being a good manager, includes, you know, taking care of your current teams, and being a good manager and a teammate and a league mate to your league mates.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important, because, not only is it going to be better for you and more fun, it's going to be more fun for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't want to be that manager that's
Right. You're not
not
active.
not
You're not
active. Yep.
responding. You're not,
Mhm.
and I learned one thing. Okay. One thing for sure. I am not a dynasty player, Courtney.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's too much. There's too much, the trades and, the waivers, and it was just
Yeah.
too much for me. And I was a terrible manager, and they all knew it. And I owned up to it. And I said, I'm really sorry. I know I'm not very active. I mean, I didn't, like, not set lineups, but,
Yeah.
it was too much for me. And this was last year, when I said, okay, that's it. So I'm like, I will pay for the next 2 years for someone to take this team over, someone that will, want to do it. And it's a
Yeah.
charity league,
Oh. Mm.
so they got
Yeah.
somebody to hop in, and, so it all worked out.
With a purpose. Yeah. And I love what you said about, being a good fantasy football manager. And I've been asking all my guests this question because I think I love to see the variety of answers. And you said it's just, paying attention, being active, and really just, and then at the end of the day, fantasy football is for fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
You said you do it for charity. I know there's high stake leagues and there's a lot of, money involved, and, we're betting in some ways and everything too. But at the end of the day, if you're not having fun doing this, because it is for fun and you want to enjoy it with your league mates and things like that. It's just I think that's very important as well.
It sure is, number one rule is know your scoring, everyone.
Yes, got to know your scoring.
We
That
need to talk
prepare.
about it because you know what, Courtney, it's so hard to transition from your super flex and tight end
Mhm.
premiums and but your home leagues and your things like that. They don't play like that.
No,
you
no,
know
no.
so make sure when you're doing your drafts that you know what your scoring is.
Mhm.
So as a matter of fact, you know what, Courtney? This Thursday on the Women of Fantasy Football YouTube channel, my co-host Samantha Holt, along with our guest Kendall Valenzuela,
Okay.
talk about two women rock stars. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Samantha Holt and
Yes.
Kendall
Big
Valenzuela.
time.
We're going to be
Mhm.
mocking a 12-team PPR standard scoring on Mock Girl Summer. So it's tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. So shameless
Ooh.
plug there because I'd
Oh,
really
no
like
doubt.
people to come in
I will
and
be on for sure.
they're there. Well, you know what? I'll send you the link and you can draft. So we
Okay.
need 12 teams. Wendy
Yeah.
does not draft during that. Wendy keeps the show rolling
You
and
keep show rolling. You're being the
yeah,
host. You're the host, right? You're
yeah.
just
But
keeping it
talk
rolling.
about, two women that are really, really amazing in this
Yeah.
space and just amazing people.
Yep.
So make sure you guys come tomorrow night for that.
Yeah, shout out to the Kendall Venezuela and Sam Holt. Venezuela, yes, I've had her on the show. I had both of them. I just had Sam on the show last week, so
Yeah.
that so it was, and I got Kendall coming up in a couple weeks. So just shameless plug I'm doing. So yeah, so it's
Heck yeah.
yeah. So I haven't talked to Kendall in a while, so it's been a little bit. So I'm definitely gonna catch up with her. And I just had Sam last week as well. But yeah, two big rock stars there in the space as well. All right, well I've got to ask you. Want to ask you two more, and then I'll let you go. And
All right.
wanted to ask you about you said your preparation. You kind of talked a little bit about that, heading into different types of drafts. What are some of, like you said, you love best ball. Any other what's some of your other favorite drafts you like to prepare for? Because there's so many different, like I said, you have the standard 10 to 12 team PPR. You got the guillotine now. That's another different one.
I love that. I did
You
the
know,
guillotine last year. That
yeah,
was fun.
yeah. And how do you, like you said, you talked about, like, say, scaling back, but like preparing for all these different types of leagues? Because there's so many different. Before it was just a 10 to 12 or maybe 14, the standard league when we first started. Now it has grown to all these different types
You
of
know
leagues.
how I prepare for the best ball ones? I actually go to the draft and I look at the league settings and I look at the
Yeah,
scoring
yes.
at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Now your managed leagues, of course, you like to know those things ahead of time. But
Yeah.
I would say like my favorite, I take after Kelly Singh apparently because I love my tight ends.
Kelly and
Yeah,
Phoenix.
I like that tight end premium.
Yes.
Anything PPR, give me all the points. Give me all the
Mhm.
points, Courtney.
Yeah. Just
But
want
as
them
far
all.
as preparing, I honestly, when I went to the Scott Fish Bowl, I had a little cheat sheet. I printed out the football guy's cheat sheet, and I took it with
Yeah.
me, and I don't care. And you know what? Other people do that too. It's still, you still have that.
Yes.
Have your computer and all that, but I still like to have that paper
That
sometimes.
is physical copy. Yes. Yeah.
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 So I make sure and have that because they had you could put in what kind of draft you were doing and it would print out your ADP for you. So,
Yeah.
I'm kind of an ADP, but you know what? For Scott Fishbowl, get your guy. Okay.
Mhm.
Because I was just like, I'm not going to win the Scott Fishbowl. Let's be realistic. Okay.
Right.
I
Yeah.
did finish top 500 last year. I'll have you know.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was pretty good. But I just was like, okay, Scott Fishbowl. But anyways, so I was preparing for the Scott Fishbowl, and I said I drafted from the 12 spot.
Hmm.
I was sweating whether it was going to be third round reversal until he
Yes.
announced it. I was like, oh,
Yep.
thank God,
It is
I know
right.
I
Yep.
would have picked 12. But it got down to me, and I'm like, okay. So I knew that I wanted Travis Hunter, but I wasn't going to pick him my first pick. But I was also not going to leave that draft without him.
Right?
In like the preparing part, I just want to pull this up real quick because I'm going to read you a couple things here quick. But in the preparing part for that, I didn't care at that point. I was just going to go with who I wanted. So my first pick was CeeDee Lamb because I wanted either Trey McBride or Brock Bowers. Those were my two guys. I had Brock Bowers last year. He saved my butt. Okay, that's who got me in the top 500.
Incredible year.
But that number 11 guy, Tony Albertino, he sniped me. He got me with McBride, and Bowers was already gone. So I took CeeDee Lamb. As my first pick, and then my second one, I took Travis Hunter because I had major FOMO, Courtney. I'm like, because what if Travis Hunter is the magic piece? What if he's the last little part of the Rubik's Cube? I'm like, it could happen, and that's almost what has to happen in the Scott Fish Bowl for you to win. So I'm like, you know what, I'm doing it. So that one, I went off the rails. I didn't care.
You just said, but like you said, I think it's a good idea. You said pick your guy, and something like Scott Fish Bowl, you pick your guy that you want. If you want someone, you go and get them. Because
in any league, this stuff is not that serious. So if you're in your big stakes leagues, let's be serious. Be reasonable. But other than that, get your guy.
Get your guy, get your guy. And, and I know there's a lot of things where say people reach on certain things. Like I've said, if you want to get a quarterback 3rd round, get him. I've been in leagues and been in things where people were like, oh, why'd you pick such and such this quarterback 3rd? And then a run of QBs go and everything too. And I always say, I'm going to wait. But I'm like, okay, Lamar Jackson's there or Josh Allen's there or Jalen Hurts is there. I'm like, I'm gonna get him. I'm just gonna get him. I had Jalen Hurts the last, and people say because I'm an Eagles fan, so people say, "Oh, you're gonna get Jalen Hurts." He's a homer and this and I'm like, hey, he fell to me in the 4th round. I'm gonna get him. So I picked him up, and he had a credible year. So there you go. Yep, and I'm in the playoffs, and then most every year in our one league. So why not? It works out. It works out every time. So. But all right, so the last one I want to ask you, like you said, you're going to Bears camp tomorrow. Congratulations on that. I want to touch down on that and everything too. What's your expectation of the Bears? They seem like they're gonna new coaching staff. Seem like the only thing they can do is go up. But they're in a tough division. You would think. Very, very tough division.
That's true.
Yeah,
I went to 4 games last year. Okay. Go to 4 games and they lost 3 of them.
Oh, yeah. They
beat Carolina. That was it. That's it. Okay. So I love Ben Johnson. I'm all on board. I love Caleb Williams. But, it's media driven right now, Courtney. Whoever you're going to watch or listen to, they're going to, Caleb's doing it. Ben Johnson's doing this with Caleb and it's terrible. And he's not gelling yet. And then today, oh man, he's catching on, okay, you know what? This is camp. It's like what, day 3 or 4 of camp?
Yeah, of camp. Right.
So, I'm very excited for the Bears season. You have to be. They're pretty weak in their running game. I don't know what they were thinking. They didn't get it. I wanted Ashton Gianti, okay?
Yes.
And I was not. I almost walked away. I was watching the draft, and when he went off the board, I'm like, well, first of all, Chicago didn't trade up for him.
Trade up and get him, right.
Yeah, so I was kind of disappointed, but I'm a big Roma Dunze fan. I do like him a lot, so I'm hoping that they can get their game together this year, but we'll see tomorrow. And it's been so hot here, Courtney.
Yeah,
it's been like the high humidity. Yep. And honestly, if it was going to be the way it has been the last few days, I'm skipping training camp. Okay, I'm not going to go out there and die. My friend got sun poisoning last year. I'm not doing that. Tomorrow, it's like the gods are helping me. Okay. It's going to be like 73 degrees, beautiful, maybe a little rain in the morning, but not much, they said. It'll be done by like 7. So
That's
it's
good.
taking an hour and a half to get there. I had a couple extra tickets, so I gave those to John McGlynn. I'm not sure if you know John McGlynn.
No.
Yeah, so him and another, I don't know who, I just gave him 2 tickets. I'm like, take whoever you want.
Right.
Because either way, I'm like, I'm going. You know what? I don't care if I have to go by myself. I have no fear of that. So I will get in the car and I'll drive myself there, you know? So I'm really looking forward. I have no idea. I've never been to training camp before. I mean, I'm sure it's, I think it's like 3 hours. I got a couple friends that have been going, so I kind of have a little idea of how it goes.
Yeah. I've never been to a training camp. Well, I guess it's more training because the Eagles have like an open practice, so it's almost like training camp.
Yeah,
and it's like 2.5, 3 hours. Speaking of that, that's next week. Actually, I gotta go get there. It's cool. It's a cool experience. You said you said it is early. Media is just, he said, it's a media circus. They're excited, and we should be as fans. We should be excited and some optimism and everything. But let's pump the brakes, like you said. Like, okay, we have there's a media member here, and they talk about it. Say, oh, Jalen Hurts he was 17 of 17, and now he's this for the training camp. I'm like, really? Are we taking stats for this? It's like, okay, whatever. Hey, if you need a story, whatever. I guess it gets people excited.
Yeah, they've got time to fill.
They do have time to fill for those 3 hours each day. Yes, for sure. So, but Wendi, it was a pleasure catching up with you. I really,
this was so great. Thank you so much for having me on, Courtney.
Yeah, for sure. And before we go, let everyone know where they can follow you on social media, follow your journey, want to reach out, what you got coming up, before all the madness starts in about, like I said, 30 something days.
I know, I'm so excited. Yes. So you can find me on Twitter, and it is at Wendi Earley. I have Blue Sky, but Courtney, I can't. That's just too much. I'm not going over there. Please don't go over there. So just come over and see me at this.
Right. I'm with you. I have Blue Sky too, and I just read a few things, but I don't post on there much. So
but you can find me right now. I'm on Thursday nights on the Women of Fantasy Football YouTube channel at 10 p.m. Eastern time for 1 hour, and we do a mock draft all the way up until the beginning of the season with Samantha Holt. We have a different guest every week. It's been wonderful working with her. She's so great. And then when the season starts, Courtney, I want to give a big shout out to the Sneaky Flex. So the twins, the 10-year-old twin girls, Rowan and Maisie, they have their little Sneaky Flex show for 15 minutes on Thursday night at 6:30 Central Time. And I'm saying Central because I'm on Central, and that's the only time with her. With them, and that is for 15 minutes, and it'll be the best 15 minutes of your day.
For sure. Follow Wendi, everything she's got going on, Women of Fantasy Football and the mock draft. And like I said, this fantasy football season has begun, and we're very, very excited to see continue your journey and always, like I said, helping and empowering women and just guiding and like I said, just having the connection and the networking for them and the continued growth. And you're a big part of that too. So I can't appreciate you enough that you did this for me. And I really appreciate the time. And thank you again.
Thank you, Courtney.
It's been a lot of fun. Yes. I was looking forward to this, and I was so glad that you accepted the invite. And like I said, I can't thank you enough.
All right.
Well, you enjoy. Yeah, talk to you soon. Have a good one, and enjoy the season. Best of luck with everything, and best of luck in all your leagues and drafts as well.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good one.